Gophers come up just short after a huge second-half comeback. Final score versus Michigan, 27-24. Breaking it all down coming up next on the Locked On Gophers postcast.
You are Locked On Golden Gophers postcast, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Heartbreak in Ann Arbor. What's going on? Back in the lab, back at it. Another Gophers postcast episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. That's your team every day. You got myself, Luke Inman, at Luke_Spin. We got Gophers Hall of Famer Ron Johnson, host of the Ron Johnson Show each and every Tuesday. Follow him on X if you haven't already. He's at 3Ron Johnson. And we got Kane Robb, host of Locked On Gophers podcast. Give him a follow on X. At Gophers, Kane Robb. Guys, so much to get into, but first, quick reminder, today's episode brought to us by FanDuel. FanDuel, now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Go visit FanDuel.com today to get started. Okay, Ron, I know there's not a lot of moral victories in this game, maybe in all sports in general, but what can you say, man? Gophers were down 24-3. They rallied all the way back, almost secured the comeback if it weren't for a penalty on the onside kick, which we can get into that later on, but a lot of emotions. It's still fresh. It's still raw. How should we be feeling coming up short and losing in Ann Arbor, despite doing, a lot of good things in all three phases today?
I mean, you can. I don't like more victories. I will say this: they had the game in their hands. They had a chance to win at the end. I think the offsides on the kickoff was BS. Like if you look at it, the rule is your body has to be over the line, and his foot was still behind the line. You're allowed to lean. Now maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if there's a laser that goes up and down, and that none of your body parts can be ahead of it. But I thought it was the foot has to be behind it, and your body can lean forward because your foot is where the line of scrimmage is, not your body. And so that to me seemed like it was a bogus call. It's not reviewable, as you heard on the telecast. And so that was just 100% BS. You let it play out. If they want to go back and challenge a turnover, then you go back and challenge a turnover. But I just thought that was dumb.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think a lot of people are with you. In fact, I think that might be the A topic all week long, just about how they maybe botched that call, because I'm with you. I thought it was the foot, not the full body. Yeah, you got an arm flailing up. Okay, I guess, but didn't make sense, at least initially right away. Kane, kind of same question, though, just to kick things off. Tough loss for sure. Still got to feel good heading back home and coming all the way back from, down 24-3 in the second half, making this thing a nail biter. I mean, a lot of props to PJ for rallying the troops. What were just your biggest takeaways, kind of your 8 topics from this one?
I think the biggest takeaways is that the team didn't give up. I mean, a lot of teams probably down 24-3 at some point start hanging their heads. You just came off of a bad loss versus Iowa. And you know what? At one point I had tweeted, start the buses. This is going to get ugly. I'm glad they didn't start the buses because this team showed that they have fight. They showed that they can put things together. But now you still have to do it for an entire game. Right now, it's still been a whole half that's looked good, and the other half is questionable. If they can put the whole first half like they played the second half, I feel like we could be talking about a Gophers victory. So I feel like the Gophers still got to put two halves together, but you like to see the adjustments in the second half. You like to see the quick passing game working really well. Darius Taylor getting involved in that passing game a lot, even though they didn't run as much. But I think there were some positive strides, and hopefully they can continue to build on it and start to get wins in the Big Ten season.
Yeah, to your point there, Michigan's record in the past 28 games versus Gophers, 16 of those wins, 26-2, by the way. 16 of those 28 wins, though, were by 21 points or more. So I think a lot of us were sitting there at halftime ready to shut this thing off, go do some yard work. But, Ron, let's talk about Max Brosmer. We got a 5-game sample size now. So far for me, when you can get him into a rhythm, get his confidence, get some momentum going, maybe it's easy concepts and easy passes, some gimme stuff early on, but when you can get him into a rhythm, he's starting to look like the part of a Big Ten quarterback for me. Like, it's in there somewhere. How do they get him to play like that in rhythm for 4 straight quarters?
Well, I mean, it's the concepts, and you're right. It's quick game stuff. It's getting them lathered up a little earlier, not forcing them right away into some deep play action type play. It was some good play calls. I say the play calling was good. I say in the second half for sure, you could tell that Harbaugh was figuring out, you know what, let's get these guys moving downfield. On the pregame show, I broke it down with Fox about that. This is a team that's very beatable in the secondary if you're able to get some time. And if you get time to throw, you look at the USC game. USC tortured those safeties. The corners, and again, they have Makari Page playing up in the box a little bit more, which he's their bigger 6'4" type J-Ron Curse guy. And so when you move him up and you move him in the box, now you have your nickel safety back in the back end, and they got exposed. And so there's times in that game where I thought Minnesota should have came out early, maybe in an up-tempo type offense. The one thing that threw me off was Darius Taylor not having as many rushing yards as I thought he should have. But when your quarterback throws for almost 260 yards, I get it. Like, you got to kind of, do what works for you.
Kane, I want your 2 cents on Max Brosmer. Reminded me of, I don't know if you guys watched the Monday Night Football game, Falcons and Kirk Cousins versus the Eagles 2 weeks ago. Kirk Cousins, pretty lethargic all game. Then they put him in that 2-minute hurry-up offense, and he started to cook, man. It reminded me of what Max Brosmer was doing today. When they sped things up, got into a rhythm, it was like, okay, let's simplify this thing so this kid doesn't have to think as much. Just get the ball in his playmakers' hands. Again, I just want to see that now for 4 quarters. Some good stuff, though, to build off today. Do you agree?
For sure. And I think he's getting the ball out early. There was a couple of passes, one on that 4th down to Daniel Jackson. He's got the ball out of his hands before Daniel Jackson is even looking back for the ball. I mean, I feel like he's reading the field pretty well. But again, I like when he kind of controls and they have the quick game tempo and he can start pointing things out and really stop thinking as much and just go. And I think that he's a really talented quarterback. It's just playing to his strengths, which the Gophers seem to be doing at times. But hopefully we can get that in the full term of the game.
And Ron, some weapons stepping up for him too. Like, it's tough to do all this all on your own all the time. Sometimes you got to have a playmaker step up. Daniel Jackson with the TD catch maybe of the season late in that 4th quarter. You mentioned Darius Taylor, 10 catches out of the backfield. It helps when some of these playmakers step up as well. What'd you see from some of his playmakers through the air today?
Yeah, Darius Taylor was a receiver in high school, so he's been said, hey, put me like a Marshall Faulk, treat me like Ricky Waters, let me do everything so I can show the NFL what I'm about, how I can play, what I can do. And he's showing the NFL he can be in an Eagles, Falcons, Bijan Robinson role on any team where he can catch the ball. So I think the 10 catches probably shows Harbaugh and PJ as well, like, hey, this is what we're going to do moving forward. We're going to run. But if we need to open it up and you're going to stack the box and put your safeties up in the box, we're just going to throw the ball. And Max Brosmer can do it. I think that's, when you look at Ethan Kalimanis, I think that's what they were missing. And they definitely won. Rutgers beat, who they just beat? Maryland? Or Washington. Yeah, and Ethan only threw for like 114 yards. So if that production, 114 yards against Michigan comes from Ethan, Minnesota doesn't even get close to this game. And I think that's the difference. Ethan's a good quarterback, but I think Max gives you more of a true threat to move the ball around to everybody.
Yeah, I think we're finally starting to see it now 5 games in. And I want your 2 cents, Kane, on Darius Taylor, because, dude, I know he only had 36 yards rushing, okay, less than 3 yards per carry. But again, 10 catches out of the backfield, making a huge difference for Max Brosmer, helping him move the chains down in the nitty gritty. I don't know, man. I watch other Big Ten running backs. It feels like they're all good. But Mullins from Michigan today, we saw up close and personal. Caleb Johnson for Iowa last week. I still think Darius Taylor, pound for pound, is still one of the best running backs of the bunch, with I think speaks volumes in this Big Ten. How do you get him cooking every week and just take full advantage of that unique talent?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the big thing is getting him involved in the pass game, because right now the offensive line is not doing its job how it should be, and that's not helping Darius Taylor on the ground, and that's what's hurting kind of the yards per carry and what have you. And so when Michigan or other teams are starting to load the box a little bit more and try to prove Max Brosmer can throw it and whatnot, when the Gophers get Darius Taylor used in that passing game, it can open him up and let him create a little bit more. And I think that's where you start to see the special. So even though you don't see his 100-yard rushing games like we saw last year, we're still finding ways to let him create and show that he can be an NFL talent.
Yeah, well said. All right, plenty more deep dive, including PJ Fleck's assessment in the Coach's Corner. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, today's episode brought to us by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience, the formula for winning championships. Also what keeps your ride or die alive. In eBay Motors, they got everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to the ultimate peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights. They got it all. And whether you're into speed, power, or style, they got you covered. 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back with all the parts you need at the prices you want. Easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. Okay, Coach's Corner. So just give me one thing that stuck out as far as the coaches go. PJ Fleck, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. One thing you think maybe swung this game based off the coach's decision. So, a play call, a drive, a challenge, you name it. For me, the end of the first half, the Hail Mary, okay, you catch it, you're down at the 1. I get it. The clock is dripping down. You want to get some points, but I'm thinking Max Brosmer QB sneak. They end up, and props to them for getting the field goal unit out there real quick and getting the 3 points. But, man, you look at the final score, holy smokes, that 4 points would have made a huge, huge difference. Ron, what did you see as far as the coaches and PJ Fleck goes today?
Yeah, so here's the thing, man. Like, people can say, and I know how PJ is because we're going to ask him Tuesday on the PJ Fleck show, and he's going to have a coach answer. Because we asked him last week about the deciding to run the ball on 3rd and 10 when they were down last week against Iowa. And he told why. He said people do convert 3rd and 10s by running the ball. Like, so it's not out of the realm to do it. He also said he didn't want to be in a situation where they ended up missing it. Clock stopped, and they have to punt into the wind, and then you have like a 24-yard net punt into the wind. And honestly, the punter's not doing great right now. So I think that was the decision there. So with this decision, I was thinking, clock it, run up quick. You got 2 seconds. Yeah. Clock it, because the clock stops for first down. Run up, clock it. I think a clock only is like 1.1 seconds or 0.9 seconds. I can't remember what the number was, but even if there's a second on the clock or a second and a half, you still can clock the ball. And that was the thing I was hoping they would do, is clock it. And then, maybe like not even QB sneak, just run the ball with Darius. Like, bring your big Nassies in, put Quinn Carroll at tight end. That's what I was hoping for.
Yeah. Kane, what'd you see? Coach's Corner, PJ Fleck, a challenge. That play, if you want to continue to kind of, vent about that, what'd you see today?
I'm going to take the play before it, actually. I think that it was a little bit impressive for me. I'm going to give credit where credit's due, because I feel like every time we've played Michigan, every time we've played Ohio State, we've kind of played conservatively and whatnot. And you go into that, before that Hail Mary play, Max Brosmer was sacked. I feel like most times Coach Fleck is going to let the clock run out. He's going to knee it run it and let the clock go and go to halftime. But he allowed Max to take the shot, got him down to the 2-yard line, and they got some points on the board. So, I mean, that was a nice change from what we're used to seeing. So I'll give him credit right there on that one.
Yeah, that's a good shout out for sure. I think that one's going to get lost in the shuffle, something you're not going to see in the box score tomorrow morning for sure. 2 touchdowns in 2 minutes and 56 seconds. It's like, don't blink, don't take a bathroom break. Whoa, all of a sudden, is this my Minnesota Gophers making this a game? The defense, though, during that second half kind of rallied. The defense showed up so huge. A huge interception, first of all. That really is what started to flip the momentum. And then they went down and scored in a huge 3-and-out to get the ball back the next series, which led to the offense scoring again. I'm looking at the third downs here too, Ron. I know you always like to bring up these third downs. Michigan converted their first 3 third downs, but then they went 1 for 8 on their next 9 third downs. I mean, talk about a rally in that second half. Defense is probably always going to be the identity of a PJ Fleck team, but just a good reminder of the type of ball this defense can play on a week-to-week basis, especially without their 2 starting DBs in the secondary, by the way, Green and Justin Wally. What just stuck out to you the most on the defensive side of the ball today?
Well, PJ always used the word response. And after losing to Iowa like that, having a lead in the first half, second half, he admitted, he said it was my fault. Those guys didn't shoot their shot. They weren't ready to go. I'll say in the second half of this game, I'm pretty sure he went in there and laid down the law of, we were here before. Remember, Iowa came back out of the half and killed us. Let's come back out of the half and try to work this with Michigan. And, it's one thing is like when you punch somebody and they bleed. That's what happened there. When that Hail Mary was a punch. And it's like Thanos, all that for this much blood. But all that for this much blood gave that team a little bit of a boost to say, you know what? Let's start attacking these guys. Like, we can play with them. And I think that was the key to this game. Like, they found a way in the second half to start making tackles.
Yeah, Cade, what'd you see on the defensive side of the ball that kind of stuck out and really impressed you the most?
Also, sorry, and one more thing, though.
Go ahead.
And the biggest thing with it is Alex Orji is super one-dimensional.
Yeah.
So the fact that he is that one-dimensional too, like he's not a great passer, it does allow you to know, okay, this is some type of run.
Yeah. Mullins, you knew, was going to eat on the ground at some point, but just containing everything else outside of that, I thought they did a really good job adapting as the game went on. Kane, what'd you see on the defense side of the ball that really impressed you the most?
I think they adjusted well. That last drive on the defense, a couple missed tackles kind of hurt us. We almost had another 3-and-out, but then Mullings found a way to keep going. So I think this defense has shown time and time again, especially as a pass defense, that they've been locking it down. I believe they're top 10 in the country still in pass defensive statistics, but they got to clean up the missed tackles forced. They played 3 tough backs in the Power 4 conference now in Hampton, Caleb Johnson, and Mullings. And Woody Marks is going to be a decent back next week for USC as well. So if they can clean up these missed tackles, get off the field on a couple more of these third downs, maybe you're talking about a couple different results in 2 out of 3 of those games. So I think they're on a good pace. I think they're showing good play with this new defensive coordinator, but you still have some work to do.
Yeah, I think about this too. I mean, a block punt, right? That put Michigan in great field position. A fumble and an interception. I mean, some of the points that you see in the box score tomorrow morning, reading the paper, that doesn't all come from the defense. So I think they were just put in, especially in the first half, some really tough positions here as well. I'm looking at PJ Fleck's all-time Gophers record, 52-37, even after today's loss. That's a great record for anybody. 5-0 in bowl games, never had consecutive losing seasons. All in all, you look at those numbers, pretty good. Now, there's always going to be this group that kind of wants to play devil's advocate and says, okay, he hasn't won a lot of premium blue chip wins versus, elite programs. Is there any chance if he does have this second, I'm looking at the schedule, tough gauntlet schedule coming up, if he does have consecutive losing seasons, that PJ Fleck should be on the hot seat? Well, where are you guys kind of at? Just big picture as far as PJ Fleck goes and what he's done for this program.
For me, I think if you have back-to-back losing seasons, it might start getting warmer. I know a lot of people will be talking about the buyout is way too big and things like that. But in the new Big Ten, I feel like you can't afford to get too far behind or be in the gutter too long or anything like that. So I feel like some sort of change would have to come. Maybe not necessarily the head coach, but maybe it's bringing in somebody who's more creative as a coordinator or something like that, as far as like giving you new lifeblood and new creativity from the offensive perspective or whatnot. Now, we still have a lot of season left, so maybe Harbaugh proves that this second half can be built upon and can do it throughout the entire season, and maybe we're talking about a different Gophers team. But if they do enough to have another losing season, then something probably has to change, not necessarily the head coach.
Yeah, Ron, just give me your 2 cents on that, because, this Big Ten is so different now this year. It got so much tougher, so much more talent, just kind of, influx of talent and premium, big program names in this Big Ten. It's going to only get tougher for PJ. Well, where is PJ's panic meter? Or I guess the long-term future, what does that look like for PJ as it goes for the Gophers?
Yeah, they have to have a little bit of confidence with the fact the way USC and Michigan played. And so now you see how you play Michigan. So now you have to kind of look at the film and say, you know what? We can play with USC. Like, here's what USC did against Michigan. Here's what Michigan came back and did against USC. And so the fact that they were literally a referee's call away from having a chance to kick a field goal to tie to overtime, or a Daniel Jackson touchdown to walk off the field, or a Darius Taylor screen pass to the house like Dalvin Cook did against the Colts. There were so many opportunities, and it just slipped out of their hand. And so you got USC. I think they can beat UCLA. USC's going to be tough. But, Oregon's good. The rest of the Big Ten it's so different now. But Washington losing to Rutgers also shows how good the Big Ten is as a whole, though. Like, you're from top to bottom.
Yeah,
I think we go toe to toe with a lot of conferences. If we put our top against their top, our bottom against their bottom, I think the Big Ten's the best.
100%. Well said there. Good breakdown. I got to mention this. I've been waiting all year for Coy Parrish to bust some sort of splash play out on special teams. He was a stud return man in high school on special teams. Obviously, 5-star recruit. Everybody's super excited about his potential. Today, he finally showed the nation, I think, the country, what he can do on special teams. Huge punt return to kind of rally the troops and give this offense a little, just the team in general, I should say, a little bit of spark that they needed. That's something that they haven't had, I feel like, in a while on special teams. What'd you see today from Coy Parrish today, Kane, that kind of gets you excited about his long-term future?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that we've been calling for just some sort of explosiveness to the special teams unit. And I feel like you saw that today. You saw it in his first return. That was only, 24 yards or something like that. But it shows that he's a threat at all times. Maybe we've got our own little Cooper DeJean cooking in the background. But I also think you had a moment where he was in the secondary, and he was like, he read a play and looked like he maybe could have made a play for an interception, but couldn't quite get there. So I think the natural instincts are there. I think the swagger is there, and I think the ceiling is very high for Corey Parrish in his future.
Yeah, very, very excited about him, not just on special teams, obviously, but what he's going to turn into defensively under PJ Fleck. All right, don't go anywhere. One more quick segment. Got to talk about the upcoming schedule. We got USC on deck. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, today's episode also brought to us by FanDuel. Now, you've been heard us talk about FanDuel a lot this summer, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we got something a little bit different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers that bet $5, you're going to get a 3-week trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need, a Google account, a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Go check it out at FanDuel.com today. Get in on all the action at FanDuel, maybe with some Vikes-Packers tomorrow. Current spread, Packers by 3. Check it all out over at FanDuel.com. Again, check it all out over at FanDuel.com. Okay, guys, quick sneak peek next week. Back at home, Huntington Bank Stadium versus USC, a USC team who just last week lost to Michigan on the final drive. That was a great game. Maybe the game of the day for me, sitting down watching some Big Ten action. Still, though, they always got some fun weapons, as they always do. That Branch kid at receiver, he's electric every time I see him touch the ball. They're always loaded with some, 4-star, 5-star talent up and down the board. Ron, just give me one or two things that come to mind when you think about this Gophers-USC matchup next week. What Minnesota's got to build on from today's game to get competitive again.
Honestly, I think they have it. I think just a little bit of Darius Taylor runs here and there. But
yeah,
if you take away 3 turnovers, they win this game.
Yeah,
so
that's it.
Punt protection. You got to shore up the punt protection. Mark Crawford, I know he's in Australia, but he's got to find a way to get the ball off his foot quicker. He's way too slow in his delivery if he's going to kick a normal punt. And he still has that Australian mindset. Just kick the ball. 2, that throw, that interception on the sideline, that was a ridiculous play. That was an awesome play. I still think if you get another camera angle, I think his heel was on the white. I don't know how his foot comes down and his heel doesn't touch the white at the same time. We've always had that conversation, just like the Ravens and what's his name, and the Chiefs. I think I think if you get another angle, which of course at Michigan they're going to make sure not to give him another angle, but you get another angle. I'm guessing Connor Stallions took the last camera that they had over there, so there was no way we could see that side. But that should have been there. And then you got the fumble by Daniel Jackson. Again, I thought you could have blown the whistle for his momentum was done. So that's when you blow the whistle so players don't get their ankles ripped up or rolled up on or put. It amazes me how long they let the whistle go before they blew it. So I thought that was a dead ball. So I think there was a couple things that the referees could have got better at. At the end of the day, again, there's no moral victories, but they did everything they could do to win this game. Even though they ran the ball for 38 yards, they also threw the ball for 258. So it's a balanced offense. They're still one of the top passing offenses in the Big Ten, and Michigan is one of the worst, or I think the worst. They're the worst passing offense in the Big Ten. So that's what, and maybe in the nation. I don't know. I haven't even looked at the nation yet. I usually try to wait to midway through the season. They might be the worst in the nation.
They might be down there for sure. They might be in that bottom.
Because I don't think they've had over 100 yards passing. So that's in any game. So when you think about that, and their other quarterback threw 6 interceptions. He threw an interception every single game. He was on a prolific, a historic pace for interceptions. So at the end of the day, you look at that and you say, you know what do we do better? We don't turn the ball over. We don't turn the ball over. We win these games.
Yeah, Ron, that's the A topic for me. That's what everybody should be talking about all week long, outside of the onside kick, which will obviously drum up a lot of drama and spicy conversation.
They cheated that.
They cheated that. Is it rigged? It might be all rigged. No, I think you're right, though, man. You lose by 3 with a block punt, an interception, a fumble, 14 points. Michigan scored off turnovers.
But the Gophers covered, though. They did cover.
They did cover. 9.5-point spread. They did cover. Kane, give me your 2 cents. Just a little knee-jerk, just kind of preview for next week versus USC.
Yeah, I'll say 2 things. One on the offense, one on the defense. On the offense, if the Gophers want to win that game, they have to clean up their penalties. The offensive line has had 15 penalties in the past 5 games. So that is not typical from what we've seen from a PJ Fleck coached Gophers team, and the offensive line is just killing us with those penalties. So that has to improve. But defensively, I think this is going to be a better matchup for the Gophers. The Gophers pass defense, like I said, is top 10 in the country right now. And I think that they can go and aim to prove that. Hopefully Justin Wally is healthy for that one. That would be a nice addition for those receivers out there at USC. But I think the struggle has been missed tackles against the running backs, and that's kind of what's eaten away at the Gophers. I don't think that USC has as prolific as a running back, and they like to air it out a bit more. So hopefully the Gophers can be more in the turnover game and getting turnovers of their own against that USC team in the secondary.
Well said, guys. Gophers, yeah, I mean, they showed some fight today. Let's be real. They showed some heart. They battled all the way back from a 24-3 deficit. They lose on this controversial penalty on the onside kick. Plenty to pick apart all week long. Final score today, 27-24. They dropped to 2-3 on the year. USC up next at Huntington Bank Stadium. Huge shout out to all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. Got to go check out all of Ron's work on X at 3RonJohnson. Plus, check him out and all his Gophers hot take this week on the Ron Johnson Show each and every Tuesday. Kane, Rob, going to have plenty of good breakdowns this week on Locked On Gophers. Give him a follow if you haven't already at Gophers Kane Rob. And remember to follow all the action right here on Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. Go like this video, subscribe to the channel. I'm Luke Inman on X at Luke_Spinman. We'll see you in a week versus USC. But until then, signing out.